Welcome.
Thanks.
We have Marijke Hofman, is Head of Community of Practice User Experience Research at DATEV. Marijke identifies opportunity for automation and implements machine learning methods to improve processes. Dr. Jonas Rende is Lead UX CX Technologies at DATEV. As a true data science evangelist, together with his team, Jonas is responsible for integrating the UX and CX architecture into DATEV's IT landscape. So, in their talk, Jonas and Marijke will share their experiences with text summarization of customer feedback using LLMs.
Thank you very much for having us. My name is Jonas. At DATEV, I am leading two technical teams in the CX department, the CX technologies team, as Luca already mentioned, and the CX visualization and analytics team. And our goal is to help DATEV to continuously learn and improve from interactions with people, data-driven and on real time. And before I joined DATEV in 2018, I finished my PhD in statistics with a focus on time series analysis and machine learning.
Well, and my name is Marijke. I have a background in psychology and computer science, which led me to discover my passion for user research a few years ago. And currently, I lead the community of practice for user researchers at DATEV and work in Jonas' team as a data scientist. And I really believe in the potential of humans and machines building optimal user experience together. And as a part of this belief, we're actively working on optimizing the analysis of customer feedback. And this is also what we talk about today.
Cool. So what you will learn today? Well, I will start first talking a little bit about DATEV and our special setting. Then I will elaborate a little bit on our text analytics pipeline just from a high-level perspective. And then Marijke will take over, dive deep with you into our text summarizer. And then at the end, it's definitely worth to stay with us because we will share our top 5 learnings and how to bring quality text summarization to life. Well, probably not all of you know DATEV. I would say we are something like a hidden champion for taxation and commercial processes. We are building software and services for tax consultants, lawyers, auditors, as well as small and medium-sized enterprises. And just to give you an impression of the size of the organization, we have close to 9,000 employees and more than 3,000 of them are working in the software development department. And we have more than 200 products, which is not always that cool. And the special thing about DATEV is we are a cooperative registered society, meaning that our clients are also our members, resulting in a special kind of relationship. They really care about DATEV. So the world around us at the moment is changing at a roaring speed. And I think all of you have come across buzzwords like VUCA, Barney, Red. And I think this is us humans trying to put buzzwords and all this chaotic mess to at least have kind of the feeling of control. And I think it's widely accepted that in order to remain successful in this rapid changing environment is customer centricity. And in theory, that sounds easy. You just have to put the customer in the middle of all your activities and you're good to go. But in practice, it's not that easy and it's simply not enough. I mean, what about your users? What about your employees? What about your partners? Their experiences also matter quite a lot. That's why we shift from customer centricity to human centricity. And for us at DATEV, being human-centric means the ability to generate positive experiences and to continuously learn and improve from interactions with people. And I strongly believe that this learning, this constant process of learning and adapting, consequently utilizing machine learning and data science methods is essential for company success these days. So to monitor and learn from human experiences, we put simple surveys at the end of our processes asking our users 3 simple questions. So first, how satisfied are you? Second, why? And third, how well did we meet your expectations? And the magic happens at the second question. It's the why, so the reasoning, a user-defined text box. And it's actually full of really useful information. Our users telling us problems, telling us solutions. This is full of sentiment. So we are spending a lot of effort in analyzing this super valuable feedback. And yeah, data is growing all the time, so we want to analyze it, of course, but it reaches a quantity we could not analyze manually anymore, so there's definitely a need for automatization. Now it's getting more and more interesting. So what is the setting we are facing at Datev? We are a German company, and we're solely dealing with German data. And these data is really domain specific. So remember, our clients, tax consultants, lawyers, auditors, you can imagine they have their special kind of language. And the feedback texts we are dealing with, they are very short. So on average, it's a 2-sentence feedback. So this is really special from a data science perspective. The texts are really short. Next thing is topics. So these data, they are not stemming just from one touch point, but from various touch points. No, more than 350 touch points, more than 200 products. So this makes especially the training of the model, fine-tuning, and also makes it really special, especially also model evaluation. Mareike is going to talk about a little bit later. The next thing is quantity. At the moment, we are receiving more than 6,000 textual feedbacks a week, and this number is growing and growing. So yeah, cannot be analyzed manually anymore. So that's why we need automatization. And Datev USP from day one is actually data security, data protection, legal. So we are facing really strict requirements there for a very good reason. So facing all this setting, we cannot use any off-the-shelf model because we need full control over the model itself, and we need always to be able at any time to incorporate the language of this domain-specific language of our users into the models. That's why we build all our models, or basically all our models are custom-built, self-built models. How does our architecture look like, just from a high-level perspective? Well, first things first. Everything is modular and everything is in the public cloud. This is super special for Datev. So modularity, this is super important for us because it enables us to adapt to new technologies all the time at a very high speed. And public cloud allows us to basically scale arbitrarily. And we are super lucky because the feedback data we are processing, they are just of a medium protection level. That's why we can process them in the public cloud. And as I already said, all the models belonging to the different steps you're seeing on the slide, they are all custom built. And all of this is done with our friends from Cross, especially it's Damir, Ivan. So thank you very much for working with us on this for more than 2.5 years now from the beginning. Really cool. And yeah, please just give them a round of applause. It's just really amazing. Yeah. It has been rough from time to time, but they're still bearing with us, and I'm super happy about that. All right, so how does our pipeline look like? So the feedback data, they are first anonymized. So here in this step, we are getting rid of all PII, basically. Next, data, they are enriched with sentiment. After that, we are passing them through a content filter to get rid of unintended content. We have really nice clients from time to time. I mean, it's anonymized feedback, anonymized data, and they are not that nice. That can happen from time to time, and we want to get rid of this unintended content. Then next, we are using topic modeling to come up with really high quality statistical clusters. But we find out it's not really handy to work with if you want to really know what's going on in the different clusters. That's why we decide to use large language models to summarize all the feedback texts belonging to one cluster to just make life easier for our stakeholders and the end users working with the data we are generating. Yeah, and then at the end, all of this is displayed in CX dashboards where we transfer data to valuable insights, and we're shipping those data directly to our product teams, enabling them to learn from market feedback on real time, which is, I think, really cool. And we strengthen their independence just in terms of decision making, and this refers quite well to Michael's statement tomorrow in the panel discussion, where he pointed out that for a modern software developer, mindset should be like focusing on decision making using data consequently. So that's what we are doing. And at the moment, the text summarizer is kind of the bottleneck in terms of automatization. It's all work in progress. And with that, I'm handing over to Mareike. She will dive deep with you into the summarizer.
Okay, so as Jonas said, we are really interested in the key topics of our customer feedback. And therefore, we played around a little and wanted to see if large language models truly add value over the traditional deep learning methods we had before. So imagine you are a user researcher and you're asked by your product team which part of the software should be revised next to increase the customer satisfaction. And I assume we are all totally up to date with the latest technology. So what are we going to do? Well, we take our customer feedback, put it into a generative AI, ChatGPT, for example, and then we have a summary generated in no time. And the summary might look something like this. So the user interface is perceived as appealing and intuitive. Nice, so not a pain point. The initial login issues were frustrating for several users. And while generally satisfied, users express a desire for more customization options. It's interesting, isn't it? But what's the problem? How do we know exactly how many users find our process frustrating? I mean, several users. This is not a real indicator for redesigning a software. Not very convincing. And how do we even know if all of the topics are covered from our customer feedback? Maybe some important issues were just filtered out. And exactly how much data is this summary based on? We don't even know that. So we think it's important to distinguish when a standard AI model, like ChatGPT, is sufficient, and when we need a model that is tailored to our use case, one that is maybe even trained on our data, and especially one that we can trust. And this is why we worked a lot on explainability, trust, and evaluation in the last month. And when I talk about explainability and trust, I talk about how can we make the output of our model as transparent as possible. It can't be totally transparent, I think we all know that, but as transparent as possible. How can the user build trust in our system, want to use it on their daily work, and ultimately make product decisions based on it? By evaluation, we answer the question, how can we make sure that our model works well during and beyond development? And token limit, well, this is a challenge I think a lot of us who are working in the field of AI or generative AI are facing at the moment. It's the maximum number of tokens a large language model can process in a single input or output step. So here we have to answer the question, how can we optimize our model performance while still adhering to token constraints? Let's have a deeper look, closer look, and start with explainability and trust. Well, here we strongly focus on the users. We want the users to build trust in our system. And well, therefore, we came up with a few ideas on how to do that. And first and foremost, we want to illustrate the relevance of a bullet point. So we want to answer the question, how many users find our login process frustrating, for example? Is it 5 customers or is it 500 customers? Because this makes a huge difference, right? And well, therefore, you can't ask ChatGPT for that number because it will probably hallucinate or don't give you an answer at all. So you have to come up with different measurements. And ideally, we have these exact numbers. So what we're going to do, or what one of our main or most promising idea at the moment is, to use state-of-the-art similarity metrics and check or match the original feedback texts to the bullet points in our summary and then count those classifications. Another idea we are working on is to use a clustering algorithm first and summarize cluster by cluster and then count all the documents within a cluster which are included in the summary. Another idea we had was maybe it could be interesting for our users to see the quality of a bullet point. And well, we thought about something like displaying the similarity between the original texts and the summary, something like how good does the summary capture the original feedback. But to be honest, this is a big playground at the moment. We couldn't come up with a user-friendly metric so far. If you have any ideas, feel free to contact us. Second idea we had was show sample text for each bullet point. So it might be possible for the user to click on a bullet point, hover over a statement, and see all the related texts. Quite easy, and we think this increased the confidence in using the system. And last but not least, a really simple idea, we want to add a disclaimer on the top of our summary, which just remind our users that what they are reading is still AI generated, because since product decisions are based on our summary, this should be always kept in mind. And we also want to add some descriptive information there, like how much data is the summary based on, what time period is the data from, and maybe even what's the average length of our customer feedback. So all of that for explainability and trust. Having focused on the user in the area of explainability and trust, we now turn our attention to ourselves, the developers, when it comes to evaluation. Well, it's not enough for us that our users trust the system or the model. We want to make sure on a regular basis that this trust is justified. And I really stress this point because in practice, we often see the opposite. I think Sam said the same thing this morning in the panel discussion. He said there are so many fancy models on the market, they're widely used, and you really have to be careful. Because when you ask for evaluation, you sometimes get the answer like, well, I asked ChatGPT how good the model is. Can be done, and unfortunately, this is not a joke, this really happened to us. So we want to make it better, of course. And in defense, in generative AI, and especially for our use case, evaluation is quite costly. Because if you want to know how good your model works, you need a ground truth. And a ground truth, that means we need hundreds of texts summarized by humans that we then can compare with our model summary. Well, this is costly in terms of money, time, and expert knowledge. Nevertheless, to get a feeling of our model, how it's work over time, we still want to build such a ground truth at least 1 to 2 times a year. On an ongoing basis, we use metrics for evaluation. And here we are mostly interested into completeness and informational value. Completeness is the ratio of input information to output information. So does the summary contain all the important information and have only irrelevant topics been filtered out? First, we take our summary and just compare it to our very own topic modeling results as a first indicator to check if similar topics have been identified. And in the second step, we take a closer look to the customer feedbacks which are not represented by the summary. So the text we could not match to any of our bullet points in the summary, and check if it's really irrelevant, if it's really okay that this customer feedbacks have been filtered out. And this is done by humans at the moment. Let's see if we involve here. And informational value, well, we want our summaries to add value, to be valuable for the users. And our definition of value at the moment is we want it to be understandable, meaningful, accurate, and distinctive. And to measure this definition, we use state-of-the-art metrics, text metrics, as well as generative AI itself. But this is also a playground. We will see if we come up with other ideas here. So, last but not least, the token limit. As I said before, it's the maximum number of tokens a large language model can process. And as Jonas said before, we have thousands of feedback texts every week, so we exceed the token limit every week, unfortunately. And therefore, we have had to make up our mind a little bit how we're going to deal with that problem. And our first idea was maybe we could just take the results of our topic modeling, make the output human readable, and we're good to go. Topic modeling is cheap, yes, the output is small, good, but spoiler, it did totally not work. So we made up our minds again. And our second idea was maybe we can just identify the most relevant customer feedbacks and have only those summarized. But this requires the assumption that the identified customer feedbacks really hold all the important information. And I said before, we are a little bit scared of losing important topics, so we didn't end up with that idea. What we're doing now is we break our data into manageable blocks. To do this, you could use a map-reduce approach, which simultaneously summarize the blocks until you reach a final summarization. Or alternatively, you could use subclustering, as I said before. And now I talked a lot about how our vision for the summarizer could look like, and we thought it would be cool to also show you how it's going to look like. So this is a demo. So there's no real customer feedback in it. And also, this is not the data design. It's just for giving you a feeling on what we are working with. First step, we can choose an application or a touch point where we want the data to be summarized from. Then we can filter for time span and for a sentiment. I think negative is always the most interesting one, right? Then if you want, you can filter for a specific topic and have the summary displayed. By clicking on a bullet point in our summary, you get the text related to that bullet point. And another option is not to go with a specific topic, but to give us a general summary. And on the right here, we have our importance score, so the relevance score, which is our indicator to answer the question, how many texts support the statement. And as an add-on, you can go to the sentiment analysis part, where you have your whole database, and you can have it sorted by sentiment. It's just to go back to the raw data. Well, as I said, it's not the final product, but maybe it helps you. It's the user view, so it covers the topics of explainability and trust. Okay, back to our presentation and back to our last slide, our top 5 learnings. First, evaluate the impact of LLMs. I think this is also something which was mentioned this morning in the panel discussion. See if it really adds value, if you really want the struggle. Second, watch out for data security and protection. Third, ask your stakeholders and incorporate domain experts. Fourth, trust and explainability is key, even though it's not that easy to implement all the time. And last but not least, you must evaluate your model, please. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Great presentation. So we have a couple of questions. Can you share any recent examples of product decisions that were made based on your insight? And what was the outcome?
Yeah, I can go ahead. Yeah, we had the the problem with our we have application that is not B2B but rather B2C. I won't mention the name because it's in the recording, so not to blame anyone, of course. And we have a lot of problems with the login system, and people were complaining all the time. Feedbacks were going crazy. Of course, we have a scale. So the first question on the questionnaire is just a radio button rating from I'm really frustrated to I really like what you're doing, and we calculate averages on that. So it was really negative, and then we showed that to the product teams on I would say near time, and they learned from it. They fixed all the problems, and now it's better. So yeah, that's the most recent example, I would say. Yeah, worked really well.
Super, great. Have you considered enriching the customer feedback insights with market insights and publicly available feedback? So to incorporate.
Yes, of course. We have a whole department for that area. And
so they did? Okay.
They do. And we work really closely with them. At the moment, we are still on the playground, so we take our customer data, but we definitely plan to use the data they deliver us and incorporate that kind of information, yes.
Okay, so the comment here was that would be very cool. So I would say that
would be very cool. Let's hope it's going to be reality in the next years.
How often are you running through the processing process? That is, how often do you refresh and push out insights, and why?
Yeah, at the moment it's on a weekly basis. and we want to shift to daily basis as soon as text summarizer is ready, where the pipeline is then fully automated, as I mentioned in the beginning. At the moment, in terms of automatization, the summarizer is the bottleneck, but as soon as it's ready for production, we won't switch to weekly or hourly deployments. At the end, depends a little bit. We have to try that out. It's a playground at the moment.
Yeah, but as you can imagine, a live version could be really difficult because we have to hold a lot of data in the background. So we're planning on doing it overnight, and then at the day you can use the dashboard and have the actual data accessible.
Okay, super. And one more. So what is the current response rate on your feedback page?
Yeah.
Well,
I have the exact number. I looked it up. So it's 4.6% at the moment.
Okay, so a round of applause, please. Thank you very much.